Close. Close. Mastering Madden.
I probably should have done this video a while ago, but I didn't expect trips tight end to be so popular for this long. Nevertheless, it's time to go over the best ways to defend this formation, namely the PA post wheel shot play, without giving up leverage to the sail play that players like to run off of it, and the other plays as well. And we're going to do it in multiple ways, because staying static will get you beat, no matter how good you think your setup is. So we'll start with cover 3, then we'll move on to zone blitzing, cover 4 palms, and even cover 2 and cover 6 hybrids. Whatever you like to play, this video will have an answer for you, plus some alternatives to switch in and out of to keep your opponent guessing and ultimately losing. So right away, like I said, we're going to go into it. Trips tight end, PA shot wheel, and the first thing we're going to do is cover 3. Okay, so cover 3. Let's just move this back up here a little bit. And we'll go over really quickly how things are kind of run stock. If you just leave cover 3 as it is and we don't even worry about our user here, what's going to happen, regardless of the setup of the circle and X receivers, the person that's going to be, or the player that's going to be covering that deep crosser, which is, of course, the problem route, the thing that we want to cover, is going to be the strong side hook right here. Okay, so logistically, that's how it's going to make sense, but no matter how good he is, he's never going to be able to keep up across the field for this crosser here. And those are always going to be easy, big gains for most people. Okay, so really the point of this going forward, not just for cover 3, but some other coverages that we're going to do as well, is that we want to cover this crosser route without being, like I said, out-leveraged to, oops, wrong controller, the table route in the corner from the sail and other things like that, but really those are the most important things. Now, right away, an option for us is to just user that route ourselves. Okay, so we can take over this hook curl and we can be much better against it. Okay, so it'd be just like this, and then we can just user that ourselves, and that's going to be, covered every single time. Okay, so that's always an option for you. So like I said before, is that we want to do a myriad of different things. We don't want to just stay stuck in one formation, because although we can take away, not one formation, one play, one coverage concept, because although we're taking away some of the things that your opponent likes to do, but they can pretty easily read that and then throw in a route that's that you voided with your user and how you over adjusted. So, but that's always going to be an option, right? So that's something you can run a couple times, once or twice or 3 times a game. Just go ahead and use that yourself. That's probably the most common way of people shutting down this. But if you take your user out of the play on that deep crosser, the middle is really left open for a lot of things like quick slants and what have you. Okay, so, but if you use that yourself, you have to kind of keep in mind that this backside post is always going to be an issue. Okay, so it's not so much of an issue if, say, your opponent is doing something like this, in which case that cornerback over here will do a much better job of relating to that. So if I throw that here, the hook curl is not going to be there to stop it because he's covering the crosser, but the curl flat and the cornerback relate much better to that backside post. But if that number 3 stays in a wheel, well, then that hook curl is going to do, is going to go with the cross. This curl flat's going to go over here. Same with this cornerback, and then there's a huge sweet spot in this whole area right here for that backside post. So that's something you have to really worry about if you're going to use that crosser yourself. Something you can do is really just bring this guy further down the deep third so he does a little bit better job in that sweet spot. But anyway, that's not something I want to talk about too much, because again, using the crosser yourself is only something you want to do sparingly. Even you might not even ever want to do it. The best way that I'm going to cover it in cover 3, though, would be in a situation like this. And actually, let's just reset everything so we get everybody back in their original positions. So something that a lot of people probably don't know, especially, it's a pretty rare zone, and that's the mid-read. So we can put one of these hook curls in a mid-read instead. So I'd put the weak side hook over here by the tight end. I'd audible him or hot route him to a mid-read. Okay, so mid-reads are only really found in cover 2, and even that, if people are running cover 2, they're usually converting that to a deep middle third. So rarely do people run this, and so I don't think people understand that this is actually a really good zone to cover that crosser. I don't know why, logistically, I don't know why they cover it, but they do. So then you're left, you can cover this hook curl instead. Okay, so let's just show you how it works out, even with some of the common adjustments here, putting the number 3 on a drag or a little hitch, and then putting the tight end on a fade or a streak. So you can be kind of here with your user, and then you can be confident that that mid read is going to take that crossing route all the way across the field. Okay, so that's going to be contested all the way, and then if they throw that, you can just click on, undercut it, intercept that really, really easily. Okay, so yeah, you really just putting this guy on a mid read, and then you can kind of relate back here, relate off of number 3. If he's doing a hitch, you can kind of be there. You can even leave it if you want, and just watch for the playmaker. But if he's back here and on the wheel route, then you can kind of sink here and undercut the post if they decide to run that. Or, if they're doing a slant from the tight end, which is a little bit more of a rare adjustment, you can be there kind of in this whole area where you don't have to worry about the right anymore because the mid-read's there to take it. Now, something that you might see... Actually, yeah, a few things I want to note on that before I kind of move on. Obviously, the personnel, you want somebody fast here. I would sub in a safety. I've noticed that even linebackers do a good job of crossing all the way and covering that that crosser. But, if that's Tyreek Hill, you'd probably want to do that. Other thing I want to note is that you don't necessarily want to... the mid-read isn't similar to cross-manning. Okay, you could think that, if we're just cross-manning, wouldn't that do the same thing? But his technique isn't really the same. He kind of goes way too far in, and then by that time, you can get a decent amount of separation right there. And I think that was probably much better than cross-man usually works here, but you can see that was big separation. Whereas the mid-read, if I can buy myself time in the pocket here, I might not be able to. He's right there all the way. And sometimes he even forces him to stop there. Okay, so the mid-read's always the best. Plus, if it isn't a crosser, well, then you have a zone in the middle rather than some guy crossing way over here on a flat route or whatever. Okay, so mid-reads, keep that in mind. And it's not just in cover 3. It's in anything you put. If you put this guy in a mid-read, he's going to cover that crosser. Now, in other formations, you might need to test out yourself his behavior, but in this formation, no matter what the adjustments are, that mid-read is going to take that crosser all the way across the field, and you can just forget about that crosser. But if you're shading, if you shade underneath on a hard flat, and I believe even if you shade inside or out, that mid-read isn't going to do that. He's just going to drop to the middle. So now if we run this again, you'll see he'll just kind of drop there, and he's going to forget about the crosser, and there you go. Okay, so that's something you really, really need to know. Use that mid-read, don't do any shading, and make sure that guy has a decent amount of speed. At least so you can click on and undercut that and have a little bit more agility and jumping to get that at the end there if they decide to throw that. But usually from what I found when I'm running it, nobody even tries to throw that because the guy's right there in his back pocket. Other things I wanted to note, so yeah, you don't want to do the crossman. The crossman does not really work. Some people have said that if you put this deep third over here from the weak side corner, if you put him in an outside quarter, and if you kind of press him up a little bit, he does a good job of covering this crosser. So he kind of sits there, and then you can click on him, or even if he's a good corner, you could just let him take the pick himself. But the thing is, most people that are running this are usually running that guy off. So if you have him in a quarter here, you're kind of locking him up here. Well, he's got to run with the streak. And you see you have a lot more room there. Now, in that case, I didn't have much time in the pocket. But, if you want, you can still put him in an outside quarter if you think it's doing a little bit better than the outside third. But to be sure, I'd always put this guy in mid-read anyway, because that's going to do the best. So now if we go like this, you see there's absolutely no way he'll ever be able to fit that crosser in. Even if he gets a tiny bit of separation at the end, that window is so small. Even against a non-clicked on defender, I think that's way too tough. Okay, so that's really cover 3. Put the mid-read there, and then you kind of have this area over here, because sometimes people will run those, maybe a quick slant or a quick in or quick drag from this guy, and then you can kind of be there to make a play on that. And not to mention that kind of backside post. Then, when you're talking about trips tight end, there's always, this adjustment off of that where, out of nowhere you start to over-adjust. If you're not over-adjusting properly for the crosser, well then you have this table route that's really really tough. Okay, and even if they throw it a bit earlier, they'll always have a few yards there. Okay, the curl flat, I think actually out of all the zones other than hard flat, I think curl flat does the best job against that. So you could conceivably, if you're not too worried about yards, say if it's 1st and 10, 2nd and 10, you could leave that curl flat there. Okay, so that'll kind of limit them to, say, I would say 3 yards at the most. Okay, so you can always leave that there. And then the only thing is that the deep third doesn't do a great job against that corner route right here, especially since there's the pocket right here. I don't know if what you want to do, because again, you're gonna want to use this area yourself right here, and so if that weak hook is on a mid read, again, like you have this opened up right here, so it puts you in a little bit of a bind. You can definitely run that there, but even in cover 3 itself, we can do a number of adjustments. So we can do something like, you could put this defensive end in a hard flat to make sure that table route's never going anywhere. And then you can man up this cornerback right here. And then say you want to use this guy yourself. Put this guy in a mid-read, so you have the corner is accounted for, the table route's accounted for, and even if they're running the PA shot post and they have this guy on a fade, well, the cornerback's man-to-man on him, so he'll never get open there. And the man coverage does a little bit better of a job against that. Let me just get on him here so he doesn't get in the mix. He does a bit better job against that corner route and the tight end. So you just throw it there. Well, that was a poor throw, and then an even worse defensive click on there. But you see he's kind of right in this back pocket there. Most people won't ever throw that, and if they do, you can click on and undercut that and pick that off. Other things you can do, you can still get creative with this. So you can put the cornerback here on a flat, hard flat, and then you can man up the apex defender on the tight end there. So again, the tight end on a fade in the PA post shot won't have anywhere to go, and then he's going to be covered a bit better on the corner, plus the table route's accounted for. This guy is over here on the crosser if they're running PA post shot, and then again, you're free. Again, as a user, you don't want to have too much responsibility. You want to just be there to clean anything up over the middle or any kind of anything you don't kind of expect. Again, you're just relating anything quick, like a slant or in, that third there, that number 3 there, if he's on a playmaker hitch, you're there for that. Backside post, you're there for that. So everything's accounted for just with cover 3. I think that's really the safest way to do it. And then, of course, something I always recommend in all of these, except maybe the blitzes that we go on later, you always want to spy one of your defensive tackles or maybe one of your defensive ends. Because when everything is inevitably locked down, your opponent is going to roll out to the right or sometimes to the left, and you want to follow him out there. Once he gets out of the pocket, click on, get that sack, or at least force a quicker throw than they'd like. Back to kind of one of my other adjustments for the level sail, where you have this situation here. What's good about that is that when they kind of, let's see if I can do this with all these hands here. You can click in that hard flat right there. Okay, so you don't really need to worry about a spy in that case. The hard flat works in that case as well. Okay, so that's really cover 3. Again, the thing that's going to unlock it all is just putting your weak hook on a mid-read. You can forget about the cross. You don't have to worry about the cross. You just cover all the other things that really aren't as good, in my opinion. So you're really locked up across the field. Mid-read and spy, and make sure if you want to be aggressive, find a way to put this guy in a hard flat. Unfortunately, in most formations, you can't put him in a hard flat without shading. And again, I told you before, we don't want to shade because that's going to affect the technique of the mid-read. He's going to forget about the crosser, and then you're going to be exposed for a huge play, a touchdown or 30, 40 yards or so. So no shading, mid-read, spy. Try to be a little bit more aggressive over here. We have a few adjustments that I showed you of how we can combo coverage that table route and that corner route to make sure that's never an issue. And then we're free for our user just to lurk and get interceptions. Okay, so that's cover 3. And next we will go to zone blitzing. And the one that I like to kind of show you, actually zone blitzing, really I'm talking about a weak side safety blitz. Okay, so I'm going to show it at a big nickel over G, but it's going to translate to other ones as well. So weak side safety blitz, and we're going to want auto flip on because that safety is going to kind of rotate towards the tight end away from the trips. So the weak side safety blitz, I showed this in a video, maybe a month or so ago, how this can be used nicely to defend crossing routes. This is going to be very similar to the cover 3 that I just showed, except some of these seam flats will have different behavior. Same with this corner. But rather than our weak hook taking the crosser or our user taking the crosser, it's going to be this weak side safety over here. So like I said before, if you have the defense on auto flip, he's going to align over here away from the trips. And so you can just use a quick adjust, triangle, triangle, circle, up on the right stick, triangle. So now he's going to man up on that crosser right over there. Then other thing, in this particular play, this deep third kind of lines up here, and what I would do is I'd just move him down here myself. He gets a little bit more involved. You can play on that corner route in the case of the level sail. And this guy is going to do a really good job of cross-manning on that crosser route. Much better than this guy because he's just because his starting position's a little bit better. So he's further away and he's further down so that he doesn't get beat early. So that the point that they cross isn't here, it's kind of more so over here, and then he's much better across the field. The reason why you can do it on this situation is you can't cross-man cornerbacks. I guess you can in this case because it's a safety blitz. But say if you were just on regular cover 3 match, everything's all messed up. You usually can't cover cross-man with the cornerback over here, but this is the next best thing where your weak side safety blitz, where he's almost just as far, but you can actually cross-man him. Okay, so it's going to be like something like this, and I'll show you how good of a job he does relating to that. So just like this, and again, as a user, you can just forget about it. So he takes him all the way across the field. Sometimes he'll have maybe a little bit of opening, but that's really, really tough. And Ronnie Lott, by the way, isn't probably the fastest guy. I mean, he's got a decent bit of speed, but what I always like to stress is to have speed all the way across the field. Okay, no matter what you're covering, speed is going to be important. So that if you have maybe a cornerback here instead, he's going to be right there, maybe right in front of him, and then you can click on, again, just get that interception. So we can run that again, see if we have a little bit more time here just to show how good of a coverage that is. Yeah, he's never going to be able to get that, even if you don't click on. Okay, so, it's very similar to what we're doing in cover 3, except now, again, you're just changing who's going to be covering him. So you're going to be keeping your opponent guessing. And in this particular example, I'd like to kind of put this guy over here, and then you have the ability to manually put this guy in the hard flat right here. So you can do that, but then when they switch to sail here, the table route's covered, but again, the corner route, you can maybe click on, but it's a little bit tight. Okay, so maybe you can leave that as is, if your opponent isn't really good with the level sail, but if they are, maybe what you can do, again, just do this and man up with this corner here. Because again, you don't really need a deep third there because the crossing route's going to be covered by this cross man. You still have a deep third here, you have your user here, you have the table route covered here, and you have the corner route covered by this corner, or I guess the safety in this case, and you also have them covered if it's a fade for the PA post shot play. So very similar, except things are kind of rotated here. So it's similar to the cover 3, but things are rotated. You still have the responsibility over here if you want to cut off quick crossers, or sorry, quick slants and quick ins, quick drags, and then also the backside post and anything for the tight end breaking in. So you kind of had this whole area, and you can totally forget about the right. The table route's covered, the corner route's covered, and the crossings covered. Okay, and the other reason that we would want to do this, other than the fact that we're just changing little things up a bit to keep your opponent guessing, is that it relates well to what I like to do on 3rd and long, 4th and long. Okay, so on 3rd and long, 4th and long, I'll actually just bring a ton of pressure. Okay, so I'd send 6, maybe even 7 players. So what's going to happen here is, what I would do is I would actually take this safety, I would blitz him. I'd put this guy in a middle read, man up the tight end. So in this case, if it's third and long, 4th and long, you're not even worried about the table route, so you don't need to cover that at all. You're still going to be worried if you get a corner route or a fade from the tight end, so you're just going to go ahead and man up this cornerback here. Mid read on the weak side hook, so he's going to cover the crosser, so you don't. And then you're sending 7 here. And then all you're doing really is you're taking this seam flat, and then you are relating to anything else that might give you issues. Or if you don't want to be that crazy, you can just send 6, and you can go like this. Okay, so 3rd and long, 4th and long, just bring the heat, because really they're just looking at that crosser route or maybe a hot read to this tight end, but the hot read's not going to be there. So over here you can just cover anything coming from, say, the wheel route. You can kind of cover the wheel route a little bit until the corner takes over, and then you can cover the post over here. So we'll just go ahead and show that. So again, maybe just cover this area and then cover the post. It's just gonna be like this. Most people aren't gonna throw a hot read to that wheel route, but you have options to do that as well as if you're using that. Or you can just leave him and just send 6. One thing I should note is that if you're doing this, and if you're showing blitz, if you start to bring all these guys down, and you put this guy on man coverage on the tight end, if he leaves him in to block, that cornerback is going to convert to a spy. Okay, so you can either leave him there, and then if the quarterback rolls out, you can click him in, or you can keep an eye on that, and then once they snap, let me put all these guys on blitzes again. Once they snap the ball, you can just click in, and he should go after the blitz again. After the quarterback. So you're always going to have +1. So even if somebody doesn't come through on the blitz, if the blitz pickup is really good, you're going to have +1 more man, and they're not going to have anything to do there. Okay, because then you don't have to worry about the fade from the tight end, you don't have to worry about the crosser, and you're going to have a +1 in the blitz game. But that's something I'd stay away from in like 1st down, 2nd down, or short. I'd really only do it on 3rd and long, 4th and long, like 3rd and 15, 4th and 15, 4th and 20, or something like that, because those quick routes, they're not going to be able to really get here. You just want to cover that crosser, cover anything hot over the left, and send that heat. Okay, so that's how I'd run it out of the weak side safety blitz. Again, we have options for coverage, complete coverage, where we're cross-manning that weak side safety, and we have options for all-out blitz that really gives your opponent no time at all to cover, or protect that blitz. The 4th thing we're going to do out of the 5 things is show you how to cover out of cover 4 palms. Okay, this is also going to be a really, really good option. So we're going to cover 4 palms. Again, we want this on auto flip. And trips tight end. There we go. Okay, so match cover 4. This is also a really good option of defending these plays for a number of reasons. First of all, we're going to be using cover 4 palms, and quickly, why we don't want to use cover 4 quarters is that in trips, cover 4 quarters plays a solo check, meaning that the weak side safety over here, if I can get to him, is responsible for number 3 if he goes vertical. And sometimes, in the current state of things, maybe it's patched by the time you're watching it, sometimes he gets glitched out and doesn't actually cover number 3. So if they just simply fade him, that's a touchdown. And also, if you ever user him, you don't really want to be responsible for that. Okay, so we're going to go over cover 4 palms because, again, if they go vertical right here, although this isn't going to be how we run it, you're going to be safe to that. Just like this. Okay, so remember, if we want to run this out of cover 4, use palms, not quarters. Now, just running it stock, cover 4 palms does okay sometimes, good sometimes, bad sometimes. So if it's just run like this, where they're using the tight end to block, the weak side safety and the cornerback do a good job of kind of bracketing that crosser, where that weak side safety covers him man-to-man, and then though this cornerback kind of gets glitched out, he goes way too far to the boundary, he eventually comes in and you're going to be able to click onto him and get that interception. I think even if we change this guy around a little bit, if we get a little bit of time in the pocket, just like this, click on, get that interception. So in a lot of cases, cover 4 palms, just as it is going to do a good job. Even say if we put the tight end on a drag, what's going to happen there is the weak side safety, assuming you're not usering him, is going to go down and cover that, and then the cornerback takes over, and he's going to take this guy man-to-man, and he's not going to have anywhere to go. But if your opponent puts their tight end on a fade or a streak, that's going to run off the weak side safety and the weak side corner with him, and then what's left is that the strong side safety is going to take that crossing route vertically. Just like this, and he doesn't do nearly as good of a job. And you can just fit that in like that. Does an okay job, but not nearly as good. So what I like to do to prevent that, without having to use the crosser ourselves, is we are going to put the strong side safety in a deep half. So it's kind of bizarre and not intuitive, but because of this, I don't know if it's intentionally smart or what, but this safety takes on the crosser then, every single time. Okay, so we're gonna use these adjustments. Actually, let's show you both. If they leave that wheel out there, we put our strong side safety on a deep half. And so now this weak side safety takes over. He's gonna take him all the way across the field. Sometimes, even in that case, you can't really fit that in. Really good coverage there. Again, you're gonna want some guys that can run at your safety spot. I believe if you move this guy down, he actually does a much better job at, first of all, being closer to the run. Second of all, it gives you a little bit better position to match that crosser. All the way across here, and he's really there in his back pocket. Okay, you can try to click on to either undercut and intercept the ball, or you can swat, whatever you want to do. So it's going to be really, really tough contested catch. The reason why, so I mean, you can put this strong side safety in anything. You can put him in a hook curl, or you can use her yourself. Just make sure to put yourself into anything other than his stock assignment, so that this safety, no matter what happens from the tight end, is going to cover that crossing route. So then you can be actually, first of all, more sound against the crossing route, and then more sound underneath if you want to be aggressive. But if you want to be aggressive, then the issue then is if your opponent leaves this wheel route, and if they have somebody faster than Brown here, like if he has a better matchup against your slot defender, sometimes he can beat him on the wheel route. Okay, sometimes he can't, but again, if the matchup's there, he can beat him there because the wheel route, that slot defender has the wheel route vertical. Okay, but again, you know, if you think you have the matchup there, go ahead and use this guy, put him into a hook curl, or, you know, just leave him into a hook curl, or maybe man him up on somebody else, or you're really free to do whatever you want there. So then you can cover anything quickly coming over the middle here, anything slants or drags. Again, we're not going to worry about the level sail, and I'll show you that in a second here. But we're going to be good against the crosser. Yeah. See, the window is kind of there, but not enough, and especially if you click on it. Okay, so that's the adjustments you want to do. It's really just put this guy in a deep half if you want to be safe. Put him in anything else if you want to be a little bit more aggressive. So you have some flexibility here while also being able to cover the most important things. Then on Sail D, cover 4 actually does the best in my opinion. So what you can do is just put this quarter flat into a hard flat, again without making any adjustments. Don't do shading underneath or anything, just manually adjust them yourself. Maybe move them out a little bit because sometimes the table route can still kind of get there. And so that's going to be covered, and then that outside quarter actually does a really good job on that corner route. Just like that. Oh, squeezed it in. But yeah, that's always going to happen. So really just always when you're running cover 4, hard flat this guy. You know, maybe you can go ahead and press back off this guy because sometimes if you have somebody fast over there, you can burn him. And then change this over here. Use the 3 receiver hook yourself. And no matter what they do, you're going to be covered against it. Okay? And what it also allows you to do is that against cover 4, this corner route in level sail does actually a really good job. You see how he gets open there? So what you can do as a user, now that you don't have any responsibilities to cover the crosser or to cover the corner or the table flat, well, if you see this route combination, you can perhaps just come here and then you can, you know, undercut that yourself. You can undercut that yourself, and then if this guy has nothing to do, well, you can man him up on any of those inside routes. Okay, so again, all of these coverages that I'm showing you are going to cover that crosser, going to cover the sail concept on the right, and so you're free to do whatever you want with mixing up your coverages and doing different things with your user defender. Okay, so that's cover 4 palms. The last thing we're going to go over is cover 2 and cover 6. Because again, we want as many options as we can. So we're going to come on cover 6 first, and then we're just going to kind of quickly go over this. There isn't too much to note. Okay, so cover 6, the way I like to run cover 6 is leave auto flip on so that the cover 4 side or the quarter side is going to be with the trips. And we're going to do a lot of really similar things. There's a few things we can do, say against sail. We put our cloud flat in a hard flat, or you know, you could even leave him in a cloud flat to take care of the corner route, and you can put this guy in a hard flat. You can't really see because he's overlapping with the cloud flat, but you can do that and leave that there, and you can be solid there, and you can maybe use the crossing route yourself, but maybe I wouldn't do that. Really, the thing I would do with cover 6 is put this vertical hook on a mid read, put this guy in, oops, if I can figure this out, hard flat, and then take this half and man him up on the corner, on the tight end, so that if the tight end goes fade, you've got him. If he goes corner, you've got him. If he goes block, well, this guy becomes a spy. You can send the spy. This guy's got the table route. This guy's got the crosser. And really, you know, it's the theme of this whole thing is taking these 3 defenders and sometimes this defensive end and changing up who's got the table route, who's got the crosser, and who's got the corner/fade. And then you're free as a user to do whatever you want, whether it's with this guy or this guy. Sometimes this guy if you're sending a ton of heat. So again, you should be good. Like I said before, let's not even show this. That mid read is going to cover that crosser no matter what initial coverage you're in. And that guy, see, actually kind of got a little bit beat. I think because I was moving him around a little bit. What I would do is just try not to touch him. And he should do a much better job. So he goes with him, goes with him, goes with him, and he's right there to make a play. Okay, so that's always going to be there. The other thing that we want to just wrap up with is cover 2. Cover 2, we can just do this situation again. You know, we can leave the deep half there. Maybe you can man up this guy. And the mid-read there is already there to cover the crosser, although his initial position isn't as good. So maybe you can move him out here. And then you can user here. But then the problem with that is that if you don't user this post yourself, there's a pretty big window there for the post. So either you're going to have to kind of keep an eye on that with the vertical hook, or, you know, if you're in cover 2 here, maybe move this guy to a deep third, leave the mid-read here to take the crosser, and then you're kind of free over the middle to just lurk on anything crossing quick. Of course, you're always going to have the spy here. Always make sure that you're covering the table route, because although the curl flat does an okay job, the cloud flat really does a poor job against the table route. And then maybe man up here so that the corner, so you're safe against the corner. But cover 2, I would say, isn't really the best way to go about it. But again, it's really about mixing things up. I showed it against, you know, I showed it with the zone blitz, the cover 3, the cover 4, and now I'm showing it cover 6 and cover 2. It's really just about being solid against all these problem routes, leaving your leaving your user free to lurk on anything that's unexpected or anything kind of quick over the middle. And then you're really going to shut it down. You're going to be much better at taking this formation out of the game because, you know, surprisingly people are still running it because it's still pretty good against these stock plays. But there are a lot of things, namely with what I showed today in this video, that you can still use to stop it. Okay, so if this is going to help you out, guys, if you're going to start using this, if it's going to be helping you shut down these master meta offenses, then I'd appreciate a like. It means a lot to me. And until then, we'll see you in the next one.